Janelle Monáe, The Age of Pleasure album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this latest album from Janelle Monáe. This is her fourth album, I believe, and I've been a fan of Janelle's music for so long. I mean, I don't get the opportunity to talk about her much on this channel, but I mean, there was a time where I was singing her praises to everybody that I would talk to. I mean, The Archandroid is one of my favorite debut albums of all time, between just how visual and, you know, just cinematic the album is, her electrifying performances, and the amount of creativity throughout the album. To me, is something that we just don't get to see very often, especially in big breakout albums like this. I still think the thing is just an unbelievable record, and, you know, maybe not as good. I thought The Electric Lady was the next step for Janelle. This just seemed to me to be the right move for her as an album. Like, yeah, it wasn't as, you know, cinematic or as epic as her debut, but I was unbelievably impressed with, you know, her ability to shape her sound a little bit, the ability to, you know, carry out her ideas, continue the good ones, and just really push herself forward. It just seemed right to me. Now, the last time we heard from Janelle Monáe was with her Dirty Computer album, an album that a lot of people liked quite a bit, and I certainly understand why. But at the end of the day, I couldn't help but feeling just maybe a little bit disappointed with the album. I still thought it was very solid, and as far as modern R&B goes, still, you know, definitely top tier shit, man. But for me, I don't know, like, while this album was, you know, very sexual, very well produced, there were some really funky jams on there as well, the creativity wasn't nearly on display. This didn't seem like the same person that released The Archandroid a few years earlier, but that's just me. I do understand the love of the album. Now, I've been very curious to dive into this album, mostly because I thought that both of the singles that Janelle dropped leading up to this thing were really likable. I knew she was going to be going for a more reggae direction with some Afrobeat influence, which sounded really cool on paper, and, you know, this album's a little sloppy. Not to say that there's not bad material here. As a matter of fact, when Janelle is on, she is just nothing short of a gift. This album starts off with Float featuring C and Cudi and Egypt 80, and you know what? I thought this was a great single since it dropped. I love the pacing on this track, the very dreamy atmosphere, and most importantly, the swagger on display. These triumphant horns up against Janelle's very braggadocious verses, man, it's so good. This sounds like the beginning of a real happening. This track amps me up. I have a lot of the same things to say about Champagne Shit. This album, like I said, it has a lot of reggae nods, Afrobeat as well. And you know what? A lot of it does quite a bit for me, but on this track here, it's Janelle's charisma. Honestly, it's always what's driven me back to her music. It's a stroke of brilliance. My hips, they are swaying. It's a great track. It's just so mesmerizing. And Black Sugar Beach, the transition into this track is so incredibly seamless. This is everything I look for in an interlude. It takes everything from the last track, takes the themes, takes the narrative, wraps it up real tight with a nice little bow, with a little continued instrumental, and it's short, it's sweet, and it's really nice. Haute is also just one of the tracks that impresses me the most here. Once again, Janelle's charisma and swagger is absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, yeah, some of these instrumentals on this album could pop a little bit more. That's just my personal preference, but then we have Janelle, like, raising the bar on everything else on this track, and I just can't help but get caught up in it. She has such a freaking presence, and Lipstick Lover, I still think it's the best track here. It hits hard every time. It is an incredibly steamy, passionate, romantic track, which is nothing new for the world of Janelle Monáe, but then you just, you know, you add in so much else. The steamy atmosphere, the throwback reggae groove, I mean, just another charismatic performance. It's all gravy. I mean, if you're gonna take one track on here and stick with it, make it this one. So here's my issue, though. Hey, this album is by far her shortest album, which I don't have any issue with if she, you know, just put it just from start to finish. It's a really consistent effort. I have no issue with that. My issue is with the length and the track list here. There are some weird detours that just seem I don't know, unfocused and really clumsy and not Janelle's style at all. Like, phenomenal, featuring Doichi. Like, what the hell is this track? The deadpan performance, the lackluster instrumental, I don't know how we've got here so quickly. This album, you know, a lot of the material is really good, but the material here that's kind of rough around the edges is such a steep cliff, and Janelle is such a creative genius. I expect so much more. Tracks like Ooh La La are just freaking annoying and just so misguided. You got Grace Jones, an absolute legend on a track like this, and this is it. Then we have The Rush featuring A. Murray and Nia Long. And listen, from a distance, this may just sound as steamy and sexualized as a lot of the rest of this album, but man, it's phoned in. Especially the performance. It's all around. Nobody brings their A game, and this instrumental is just once again shockingly lackluster. And from a songwriting stance, this is one of the worst tracks I've ever seen Janelle put out. It's shocking. No, this 2-minute and 45-second track feels like an 8-minute slog. We also have the French 75 featuring the legendary Sister Nancy. Once again, like, it's great that you have her here. Just give her something else, like, good next time. And Only Have Eyes for too, honestly. The amount of good reggae tracks on this album, you know, it's more than I expected, honestly, but this is just so not one of them. I mean, her vocals are absolutely spectacular, but the rest of this track, I know that she could do so much more. It's half-baked. It's just not a complete thought. And these are things that, honestly, I never thought I would be saying about a Janelle Monáe album. She's always been just so consistent. And listen, this album is sloppy. This is easily her sloppiest album. But when Janelle is on, there's something so special about her. Like Waterslide, for example. As far as a reggae-tinged track goes, from start to finish, look no further. It's steamy as hell. It's probably the most overtly sexual track here. And yeah, that's saying something, but I think it works out very well for her. It's really, really just solid. It's a vibe, and Janelle sounds fantastic. And no better. Late in the album, this is such a treat between the nods to Afrobeat and the steamy sample. This is it. It's so instantaneous, it's soulful, it's groovy, it's easy to take in, and the very seductive atmosphere is just icing on the cake. Paid in Pleasure doubles down on the fact that when she is so on, she is so freaking on. This track is drowning in charisma and dripping in sexuality. It's great. And you know what? It's one of the shorter tunes here, but for a change, I wish this was like a minute longer. Not a bad move, though. This track is just a really late album treat that I love. And a Dry Red as a finale, this is one of the nicest surprises on this album. Album is probably her most overtly sexual to date, and that's saying something coming from the person that put out Dirty Computer back a few years ago. But hearing this as a finale is such an overtly sweet and romantic and charming tune that is so full of heart. It's such a nice touch. It's stripped down. Janelle just sounds so passionate. I think this works great. This album is not what I expected it to be, honestly. I'm kind of shocked by a lot of the detours and the half-assed risks that show up that did not need to be here. Yeah, let's steer clear from that in the future, mostly because I know Janelle's better than this, and I don't know, I just was expecting maybe something a little bit more focused and a little bit longer, but that's just me. Still, this is a very solid album from her. It's fine. It's a fine album from Janelle Monáe. Probably her worst, but even at her worst, you know, she's putting out some of the more interesting R&B out there. I just wish it was more of a focused album, which it's sadly not. I'm feeling a very strong 6 on this album, but let me know what you all think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.